Right, Shalom, Shalom, with the soft souls, but giving no praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushua, Bashem, Kakudash, that belongs to the apostles of Great Millstone, and honors to brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the real name of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh, and the Son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba meaning in, Ha meaning done, Shah meaning names, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. So, quick one, basically inspired by, base came across some information about, pro-Russian rallies over there in the land of Burkina Faso, right, which is round, well, it's here, so it's like West Africa, right, just before you start getting into, your North Africa, so just above Ghana, Liberia and everything. So Liberia, no, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, right? So yeah, so I basically was looking, seeing that, and then there was some interesting information in some of the replies to this particular bit of information. So I kind of did a little bit more digging because I also remembered that Russia is in some other so-called African countries as well. So I'll bring out some of that information. Got some two precepts, see where the spirit leads. And yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna go, get into it, right? So I remember looking up some information a while back, which basically had like Russia being in Libya, right? So I was like, when I was putting this together, I was like Russian influence in Africa. Right, so came across this Time article. Right, you got my one free article. However many free articles they give you, so can't refresh the page. But says the world needs to pay attention to Russia's growing influence in Africa. Right, this is in 2018. Right, contestants lined up in Bangui Stadium to vie for the title of Miss Central African Republican. Right, so that is over here, right? Literally Central African Republic, not literally in the middle, that you see there. Right, so it says, as they paraded, a new regional stage was also doing its best to woo onlookers with walls adorned in Russian flags. Right, the Kremlin sponsoring of the car's first beauty pageant in 3 years, right, marked a showy bid by President Vladimir Putin to extend Russia's soft power on the continent. Right now, one of the things I find interesting is that is something that that you would expect America to do, right? Go into one of those countries and sponsor an event like this, like a would you call it a beauty pageant? Right now, it does say it was their first in 3 years, so the CAR would have been doing that sort of stuff before, judging from this article. But once again, it is that wine, right? Especially if it's like these Western type of beauty pageants where you just got like half naked women, just walking around or whatever, right? That's off, right? And once again, that's that kind of wine that you'd see America to be pushing, right? Once again, the Russian Edomites, American Edomites, British Edomite, French Edomite, Dutch Edomite, German Edomite, they're all Edomites, okay? As well, the focus remains on Ukraine's following Moscow's invasion, right? Because when was this article written, right? April 4th, 2022, right? So it says while the focus on remains on Ukraine following Moscow's invasion, Africa has for some time, right, been a second front in Putin's confrontation with the West and cannot be ignored, right, with 17 African nations abstaining and one voting against, right? So when you had, when Russia first went into Ukraine, you had the UN meetings or whatever have you. Right now, the Western rhetoric, the American rhetoric is, oh, the world is all against Russia. But when you actually look at the nations that voted to condemn Russia, it was basically NATO and the EU, right? Beast, basically. America, NATO, and the EU, right? New Zealand, Australia, right? Those kind of wide Edomite nations, right? But then, for the most part, the rest of the world abstained or voted in which call in favor of Russia, right? And that dispels this idea, right, that America has absolute power over the whole world, right? America's influence is diminishing, right? That's why the scriptures, for instance, say, "Art thou become as weak as we?" Right? Because as time goes on and time progresses, less and less nations are actually going to care what it is that America has to say. So continuing on, it says, a new report from the Tony Blair Institute, right, for global change shows how Russia's reviving Soviet era ties, right? Can keep this in mind for a priest that we'll go and get later on. You already know what it is, right? It says, and in exchange, become a security provider. Once again, you know what preset we're gonna get, right? So Putin now appears to consider Africa an arena of his imperialist ambition. Which, what is it? Whether it's the Russian Edomite or the American Edomite, what does the scripture say, right? This is Job 9:24, right? It says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" Right? So if they're trying to make it seem like, because this is the thing with these devils, with whether it's real or imagined, right? The infighting, which scriptures talk about, if Satan be cast against, divided against Satan, how shall his kingdom stand? Right, these Edomites all infighting one against the other, right? But this, his imperialist ambition makes it sound like America and the rest of the West and the rest of the Western Edomites don't themselves have imperialist ambition, right? It says, and hopes to lure the continent away from Western influence, right? Africa's home to some of the fast growing economies, and once again, consider the when you consider the the gold mountain, right, rather the gold reserves that was found in Uganda, right, you already know people are going to be vying for that land now. As Apostle Tar went into in his video, you have China that's already got dealings over there, and China and Russia are basically getting in bed one with another, right? So if it comes down to a war and rumor of war over there in the land of Uganda because of that gold, guess what? We would be expecting Russia and China to be teaming up, right? Because once again, Russia already has dealings militarily, right, in that region, right? It says it is a relationship based on a paradox. Russia has vested interest in the deployment of private military contractors, PMCs, in the region. Thus, instead of bringing peace, right, it thrives on instability in African states and volatility among Africa's leadership, right? And for that, it says Habakkuk 2 and 5, right? It says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by one philosophies," like we spoke about at the beginning of the article about how, they were pushing, what is this, sponsoring, what's this word again? Beauty pageants, okay? Says he is a proud man, right? Neither keepeth a home. Yeah, because as we're gonna read in the article, right, he's in several different nations, right? Several different of these African nations, right? Just like how the American devil is in, rather the Western devil, right, are in all of these different nations, right? Oh, where are we? Jumping the gun here. Yeah, here we go. Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yeah. "Neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desires hell and desires death, right? Cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people," right? Because there's a thing, everywhere where this man goes, death follows, right? So that's why, as we literally just read there, right? It thrives with instability and volatility. And what does that lead to? That leads to the death of the people that are there, right? And that is a Edomite playbook 101. You look at some of the reports in regards to the Congo, right, and the mining of some of these minerals that we use in our in our day to day, in our phones and whatever what have you. One of the main things that is reported that Esau does, right, is he basically sets one area, so if you will, one tribe against another tribe, just put it plainly, right, simply, right, to basically fight one another, so that in that commotion, in that instability, the companies can go in there and take the resources at a discount, right? Let me grab this also, right? This is Psalms 55 and 20, right? 21, I think, right? It says, "The words of his mouth were smoother than butter," right? Hey, we'll come protect you against the West. Oh, we'll come and, help you with this, that, and the other, right? But guess what? It says, but war was in his heart, right? Because at the end of the day, this man's always got an ulterior motive, right? To basically do the same thing that America is doing, that the Western Edomite is doing, right? What does the scripture say in Sirach? Right, let me grab this real quick. This is Sirach 13:4, I believe. Right, it says, if thou be for his profit, he will use thee, but if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee. Right, so this man, especially any brother that's worked in Esau's companies or whatever have you, right? Well, you've just been around Edomites in general, right? When you're helping them and you're needful to them, yeah, hey, they're all very, jovial with you, right? But deep down, what they actually have a vendetta against you, right? They have they have a gripe with you, if you will, right? It says, if thou have anything, he will live with thee, right? Yea, he will make thee bear and will not be sorry for it, right? And this is it. In whatever dealings that this man has, whether it's the Russian Edomite or the American Edomite, right? They're gonna take and make use, or rather not make use, but basically take all of the resources and everything that they can get from a situation, right? But at the end of it, you just get thrown away like a used plate, man. The disposable plates, right? You have the barbecued meat on it, where you eat it, and then after you've eaten it, you're well satisfied. There's no more seconds to have. What do? You just chuck it in the bin, right? That's how Esau is with these different heathen nations. With anyone actually, okay. But in this instance, I'm referring to the heathen nations, right? This is verse 6. And if he have need of thee, he will deceive thee and smile upon thee and put thee in hope. He will speak thee fair and say, what wantest thou, right? So get back to the article, right? So since the invasion of Crimea in 2014, Russian PMCs, right, private military contractors, have deployed to at least 19 African nations. One of them, the Wagner Group, right, has been tasked with operations that range from protecting commercial assets and fighting against Islamist terrorists to suppressing anti-government uprising, right? This is in Sudan, right, and keep that in mind as well. At least 500 Wagnermen were deployed during 2017 to train the notorious rapid support fighters and also to combat rebels who opposed President Omar al-Bashir. In Libya, once again, keep that in mind also. Right, Wagner provoked military support to General Khalifa Haftar in his bid to oust the Western Batch UN government of Nation Accord, right? Wagner has also trained mercenary rebels, yada, 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 right? I did try and find the 19 countries that basically Russia's been in, and it really wasn't giving me like just a list of the different countries. But for instance, I saw like Mali, Sudan, as we read there. So I'm just looking at it on another screen. Some of the names. It really didn't go into it. Mauritania was one as well, right? So on the maps, where is it? Where would that be? Right. Mali's up here. Mauritania's up there, right? So yeah, that's it. But like I said, there was a few more, but it just wasn't like a plain list. But we saw CAR, Sudan, and Libya as well, right? So yeah, when I read this, one of the replies, like I said, had another bit of information, which was basically how the US is actually rolling out some laws, which basically say if you've got Russia, right, if you're helping out Russia, right, or rather Russia's helping you out, we go and come for you, right? It says US debates bill to counter malign Russian activities in Africa. This is a new law to punish states that back certain Russian actions could have major implications for African countries. It says a US bill that would oblige Washington to punish African governments that abet Russian malign activities on the continent is sailing through Congress, right? So it basically says it's effectively going to pass in this paragraph. It says the bill broadly defines such malign activities as those that undermine United States objectives and interests. All right. The Secretary of State would have to monitor the actions of Russia's government and its proxies, including private military company. Clearly, Wagner is in its sights, as we read there. Wagner is in a few of these different nations, right? And yeah, but once again, that statement there undermine United States objectives and interests, right? So basically, they've left it open and plain, and this is linking up with the scriptures in terms of what was it? Shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, because the bigger the presence that Russia has in these different nations, once this passes, and once again here is just to prove that this isn't, this is real news, right? HR 7311, right? You can see it's introduced past the House. It says it's ready to be, that it's likely to be passed. So it's going to pass the Senate and to the president. It's going to become law, right? And yeah, once this passes, then don't be surprised we start seeing a lot more skirmishes over in the land of Ham, right, so-called Africa, right, especially with this bit of gold that's been, I say bit, with this massive amount of gold that's been found in Uganda, right? Now, let's get into it, right? This is Ezekiel 38:1, right? It says, "And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, right? And say, Thus saith the Lord power, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal." Right now, why does it keep saying against and against and against? Because as we've been going into the whole lesson, right, these are Edomites, right? The Russians are Edomites. The Lord says that he's going to do away with all of the Edomites in Obadiah, the first chapter, right? And it says, Gog, land of Gog, that's representing modern day Russia today, right? Rather, so, today that we when you break it down, that's Russia, right? It says, "I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws," right? And once again, if you remember, I wanted to highlight this statement here, right? Shows, this is back in the article, says the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change shows how Russia is reviving Soviet era ties with African states to extract resources from the region and in exchange become a security provider, right? So that's what we're seeing there, putting hooks into our jaws, going back to that Soviet era mentality, that Cold War mentality of, look, no, actually, I am a power, right? Says, "And I'll bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords," right? Persia, right, which is modern day Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, right? And you look into this Libya, right, Kawash, which is Kush, right, or Ethiopia, right? And then would you call it? I had a map here. Right, you see here, Kush is in this corner here, right? And would you call, so for this one, I said biblical map of Africa, right? But this is basically what you see, the yellow, the red, and the blue and orange, whatever. These were the ancient subdivisions, right? But whether it's biblical, I'm not entirely sure. But here you do see a biblical map of where the land of Cush was, right? So you see here where does it encompass? You got some are Sudan, right? Some are Ethiopia, right? Yeah, Somalia, Kenya, right? And you see in there. But once again, we go back to the previous article, right? What did we read? Right, Sudan. In Sudan, at least 500 Wagner men were deployed during 2017 to train notorious rapid support forces, right, and also to combat rebels who oppose President Omar al-Bashir, right? So, hey, that's what we're seeing. Would you call it over there in that land, right? That's what we're seeing. So where's the map gone? Right, that's basically what you're seeing there. That this would you call this has been fulfilled, right? Over here, Libya, you see put, right? And you already we read about Libya in the next paragraph. In Libya, Wagner provided military support, etc., etc., etc. Right. So we continue on. Right. It says all of them with shield and helmet, so fighting along. So Goma and all his bands, House of Togama of the North Quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee, right? Goma and Togama are ancient places which are now in what would be called Turkey, right? It says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them, right? You better protect them, right? And once again, what did we read? We read, right, that it's they're turning back into that Cold War, that Soviet era mentality, right, in exchange to become a security provider, right? So this is literally this precept here, right, being fulfilled before our eyes, right? So, so yeah, I think that's sort of covered everything that I had, right? And yeah, Lawsville, that was edifying, right? And yeah, once again, don't be surprised if you start seeing more skirmishes over here in the land of Ham, right? Because there are things happening over there. We just never really get it just never really gets spoken of like that. You'll just hear, oh yeah, there was a terrorist attack in this place or whatever, what have you. But in terms of the skirmishes, the proxy wars that happen, we don't really know, right? All manner of stuff, especially here in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, right? This region, because you got a lot of what you call it, this in this Congo region, where you got a lot of natural resources, lots of natural resources, right? So all manner of wickedness and murder, right, is probably going on here, which we don't even know about, right? So yeah, as always, Lord's what I was edifying. Till next time we say Shalom.